Let me just crank this all the way up just so we can bleed our ears.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, and Margarita the bed. It's my own damn fault.
So,
This is pretty good. That's a pretty good one. Yeah. No, that'll work. Jesus Christ. The Parrot Heads are gonna kill us.
Oh, they are. They are. Hello, if you're watching Parrot Heads, please don't kill us. Hopefully you're too lethargic.
Hopefully. Regardless, I think we can outrun them. I'm not in great shape, but I do think that if we just start posting these at 5 o'clock, we'll be okay. And it's 5
if we stay more than 10 miles inland, the lack of salt in the air will kill them.
I do live less than 10 miles from salt water.
It might be difficult for you.
It might be difficult for me. So, hi, welcome to a podcast where we talk about Jimmy Buffett, I guess. Hey, Kyle, what have you been listening to?
I've been listening to Jimmy Buffett.
All right. Well, hi, this is Tom. I'm Tom. And this is my friend Kyle.
And Tom, what have you been listening to?
I have been listening to Jimmy Buffett. I've also been listening to some Death Grips lately, but mostly today, in the past few days, I've been listening to Jimmy Buffett mostly. So, mostly Jimmy Buffett.
So the way that this podcast is going to work is that once a week we'll be putting out a discussion, not really even a review, but a discussion on an album in Jimmy Buffett's discography. And we're doing it in chronological order, which is where the historiography comes in. So discography, that's the
name of the podcast.
Origin of the podcast's name.
And we're going to be doing that all fucking year.
Yep. The last Friday of the year is Jimmy Buffett's, or what would have been Jimmy Buffett's 80th birthday. So we are wasting away 2026 in a tribute to Mr. Buffett.
Wasting away, baby.
Yep. And this week we're doing 1970s Down to Earth, his first album, because it's the first episode. Imagine that.
Is there context to get into with this one, or do we just dive right into talking about the album?
Well, so there is a little bit of context. So Jimmy, obviously, he's a Gulf Coast guy. He grew up in like Mobile, Pascagoula, that area. He started busking in New Orleans, I believe, which is why Jackson Square in New Orleans is mentioned on this album in one of the songs. Can't remember which one. But he ended up in Nashville recording this album, capital of country music, which is why there's like a folky country vibe to it. I mean, Jimmy Buffett is a country artist. That's he always said like, first and foremost, and you could hear it on all of his albums. It's got a very country vibe. He just added in the Gulfy, Caribbean-y stuff.
Yeah, I think the Gulf stuff in like the large majority of his music, and on this album, kind of like a folk rock.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Sort of direction.
There's some interesting stuff on this album.
Yeah, but the country certainly is always there.
So I do want to point out something on the cover. I don't think you have a physical version of this album. This is very difficult to find.
I don't, but I do have the album art right here.
Yes, and if you go on to Discogs, you can see the back, which you can see is a non-mustachioed Jimmy Buffett.
Not going to see a lot of that.
Very shocking for early 70s Jimmy Buffett. It is it's an iconic look for him. It's weird to see him without it. When you look at him on the back cover, are you seeing this picture?
Yeah, I am.
He looks like a milk toast, like James Taylor looking pasty white dude.
I was gonna say he looks like this could be like any member of the Beach Boys. Like,
you know what? He does kind of have like a Dennis Wilson vibe to him.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
hey, that's a compliment, Jimmy. I know you're dead, but he was the hot one.
He's like clean shaven, but he's got the long hair. Like,
yeah,
he's kind of going for that, which is very interesting. Just sort of given sort of this record that like it is like he sort of starts with a little bit more of a buttoned up look, I guess, which is weird because like
Yeah.
the big thing for me in this album was, I don't know how this never occurred to me. It never occurred to me that Jimmy Buffett was like a hippie.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
just,
this is 1970, so like there's a lot
yeah,
of late 60s stuff.
it's very strange to me. And it's really like that sort of like the sort of like hippie mentality, right? That sort of suffused like a lot of that sort of late 60s, early 70s folk rock. It's all over this album.
Well, okay, but
Um,
see, here's the thing. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you by offering an alternative viewpoint. He doesn't sound like a hippie to me on this album. He sounds like he's detaching himself from it the way that like a political folk singer, almost like the way like a Phil Oakes. Because I mean, we'll get to this in a couple of specific details, but I noticed that like Jimmy Buffett, when we think of Jimmy Buffett, I think of a lot of like first person lyricism, like he places
yeah,
himself in the song. There's really like mostly third person on this album in the
he's doing a
lyrics.
lot of like portrait pieces.
Yeah.
A lot of it's not bad. Some of it I think is not very good, but a lot of it's pretty good.
I agree. I listened to this album many years ago, and some of it connected with me just because I thought it was kind of kooky that it was Jimmy Buffett. Because I always like I have an affection for like singer songwriters that have like very big personalities and niches that they fit into. Like the other person I think about like is like Tom Waits. Like you listen to a
Yeah.
Tom Waits song, you expect it to sound like the devil is trying to murder you, right?
Yeah.
To the soundtrack of Hell. It's
Yeah.
weird sounding. It's demonic sounding. And then you go back and listen to like his first album and it's very like normal singer-songwriter, like a guy just like being like, oh, everybody else is doing this in the early 70s, so let's write a little love song ballad. Let's write a little, jaunty little thing that might be a pop hit, sort of a thing. Let's do a little country song.
The way that artists like this evolve is always really interesting to me. It's why I'm sort of excited about the notion of this podcast. Like I really like listening through everything and finding those like weird spots where like, somebody tried to move to a trend or like somebody started in a style that was very much not the style they like came to prominence in. This is definitely that.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Buffett's going to be for at least a while going to be a really interesting evolution to see. I think it'll plateau at some point, and maybe that'll change as we go along. But that's my prediction.
I think it will plateau. I'm not gonna speculate because I haven't listened to most of the albums. I can't speak for you, but I only listened to this album for the first time, yesterday, preparing for this. And you've been trying to get me on this thing for years, but like it's really, I thought it was a fascinating album.
Yeah, there's a couple of songs I've always really liked. The Christian, I think, is a really good
Let's
song.
yeah, let's get into the album. So the album opens with The Christian, which is this like, or The Christian question mark. And
Yes,
it's
so I do want to point out this. Most streaming services will say just the Christian without the question mark. The official
yeah.
album liner notes has it as the Christian with a question mark.
And this album is like really interesting for a number of reasons, not the least of which being that it is like this folk rock direction, which is, if you're familiar with Jimmy Buffett's music, you're not familiar with folk rock Jimmy. So this album, when it released, it sold like less than 100 copies or something.
It was 324 copies. I looked it up beforehand.
It's not a lot. It's
Yeah.
not a lot of copies.
No, it's not.
And it's weird because like I don't think the album's that bad, but not many people heard it when it came out. Not many people were familiar with this Jimmy. And I think part of the thing that really struck me about this also is just that like, we'll get into like what the message is, but like Jimmy having a message is very strange to me.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So we'll get into so look, I mean, a little peek behind the scenes. We're doing the first two albums in one recording session. When we get to the second album, I have something to say about this. I've written a note on it about one of the songs. In terms of this, yeah, I found it really weird because all of a sudden it's like, because we're doing this specifically as a historical, understanding the historical context behind Jimmy Buffett's career. And it's really weird to immediately just like on the very first song be like, oh, I know exactly what this is referring to. This is very obvious. Jimmy's not supposed to make it obvious. It's supposed to be like, well, really like eternal and ethereal things like beaches and surfing and stuff like that.
I don't disagree, but I do think that like a lot of the Jimmy Buffett songs I like are sort of not really in this vein, but like they are sort of about those sort of ethereal notions of like being somebody whose life has driven them to the sea,
Yeah.
right? Like I love that kind of stuff, and this does sort of have songs like that. The Christian is not one of them. It is a song about something specific, which is
No, it's
about
definitely about like the burgeoning like evangelical movement in the like late 60s, early 70s. It might even be a bit about like the Jesus freak movement that's evolving out of the hippie movement.
I think it is. It's very like it strikes me as very like these sorts of like very it's a popular post type along among like liberals, right? And I don't say that in a disparaging way, but just to sort of identify a group where it's very popular of like sort of identifying an action amongst like professed Christians that go against Christian teachings, just sort of being like, oh, you're so Christian with your incredible gaudiness and lack of like like charity for the poor, and it's like, Jimmy, what's going on here, man?
See,
What is
yeah,
this?
I have a playlist I have on my computer's music library that
Yeah,
is literally just called "I Hate Televangelists," and it has songs by like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell and
yeah.
Mark Knopfler, like people who actually like write like message songs. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, also there's like a Jimmy Buffett song that belongs on that playlist.
I think there's a couple because I think also like at least one other song on this album could go on that pretty easily, maybe two.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
agree. This one and then the Missionary
the
and
Missionary. I also feel like
possibly Truck Stop
Truck Stop
Salvation.
Salvation. Yeah,
But we're gonna
the
talk about that. I have a lot to say about that song.
I don't know. I like the Christian. It's a weird song. It kind of blindsides me by being like Jimmy being overtly political. But
Which is something
I,
that like I can't think of a Jimmy Buffett song on any of his like major releases that is overtly political. Like I know he was a big ecological guy towards the end of his life and he wrote songs for like the movie Hoot that had obvious ecological messages. I don't think any of
yeah,
them are like as pointed as this. This is like direct contemporary social commentary.
a lot of my notes are just like, why is Jimmy having this message? Also, and I have to ask this now and get this out of the way now because it comes up a couple of times. Was Jimmy Christian?
Jimmy grew up
Like,
Catholic.
okay, because I always got this like kind of like I
Yeah.
always got this like kind of agnostic vibe from like some of his later work. I don't really know what his faith was like, but there's a lot on this that kind of makes me think that like on this album and some on the next album, but mostly this album, it feels like he sort of believes in like God, but also
Yeah.
does not really have a functioning relationship with a church body.
And so that's the other thing. It's like, okay, so Jimmy Buffett is from the Gulf Coast. He's from the Deep South. It's very Bible thumping territory, and Bible thumpers come up. First of all, a lot on this album in particular. Like maybe half the songs mention it.
Yeah,
Like people who call themselves more Christian than they act. But that is kind of a recurring theme when he talks about when he uses a lot of Southern imagery in his songs. I mean, specifically Southern imagery rather than like coastal or nautical imagery. He does talk a
yeah.
lot about Bible thumpers, and I think like it's pretty obvious from this. There's some skepticism involved.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you would even call it skepticism. I think I would call it outright criticism. It's not just that like he's skeptical about these people's relationship with God. It's that he's calling them out. He's saying like, I think you're not really being serious about this. I don't
Well,
think
and then
you.
part of it is like it's the last song on the album. I have so much more to say about it, but I do want to point it out because it makes sense right now. Truck Stop Salvation. Jimmy Buffett is talking about himself there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the greasy hippie that walks into town who gets the holy roller
100%.
preacher upset. You already mentioned like, oh, Jimmy Buffett, he was a hippie. It's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think part of it, the skepticism slash criticism comes from the fact that like he doesn't look like a clean cut good Christian boy in the 1960s.
I guess probably when he was writing it, he doesn't. Maybe that's part of the like he has the like long hair on the back of the album, but maybe like that's part of like him being like all clean shaven is sort of like trying to disarm people so that they come in to the album.
Could be. I mean,
I like.
that'd be the
Oh,
reason for the big smile on the back cover, I guess.
let's move to something that was very much like more like, okay, now there's Jimmy.
LSD.
There's LSD. Yeah. I want to say, before I listened to this album, I saw someone talking about it, and they said that this album had a lot of subtle references to drugs.
Oh yeah, it's
I don't think I would call LSD subtle.
it's subtle in the way that dynamite is a subtle explosion. Are these people the people who like? I just listened to Jimmy's latest album that was called like my gummy just kicked in or something. Like he does have a lot of explicit references to
Yeah.
drugs. So in comparison, maybe the fact that he didn't just write the letters LSD.
I guess so.
He did construct a story around it, and I wanted to talk about that because so Jimmy Buffett was a friend of Steve Goodman's.
Okay, yeah.
Steve Goodman wrote a lot of these like funny songs like this, like the Chicken Cordon Blues or something, where he would construct this story around like funny characters, and it would be humorous. This sounds a lot like that in the way that he's constructing a story that obviously is meant like as an allegory for something that's like not as serious as the subject matter. I don't think it really works here because of course he is talking about like racial profiling.
Yeah, it's a weird one for sure.
And can we let's just talk a little bit about like the rhyme scheme and the music, because the verses of the song, those are like classic Buffett verses in the way that he's doing like the AAB BBC, BBC sort of, or the BBA, yeah. In the way he's delivering them in that cadence, that's like I hit that song and I was like, oh, that does sound like Jimmy Buffett now. The way he's singing that.
Yeah, like the music's still a little bit off, but it's still like this is Jimmy, right? Like that's how I know Jimmy. This is the direction he goes.
Yeah,
in.
and then the chord progression, like of the chorus, the after it's the gotta help Ellis, LSD, try to help Ellis, he ain't free. That part, where the tempo changes, it sounds exactly to me like parts of Cheeseburger in Paradise.
It does have that sort of
bounce, yeah.
There's moments on this album and the next album where like I see like there's a thought that Jimmy has either musically or lyrically that you see on these albums, and then you can kind of identify like he developed that thought into something else later down the road that became much more popular.
Yeah.
Like there's something there that's evolved beyond this concept.
There is another part that I have identified from this album that sounds like it, and I think it's probably more coincidental because it's such a long stretch. But the way that the guitar like does a chicka 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 right at the beginning of The Christian, it sounds exactly like the backbeat during the religion section on Fruitcakes.
we're gonna have to talk about it again when we get to Fruitcakes because I have not listened to Fruitcakes.
I will hold this in the brain bank.
Yeah. The song is like he's kind of joking, like he's doing a bit about like the drug LSD, but then also kind of doing a political story about racial profiling, and it's like I don't know if it works. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the other part is like the lyrics are a story about racial profiling, and the message is we got to help this guy, which is not much of a message. It's like
no, not really.
It's doing the bare minimum, which is like humanizing someone by saying they don't deserve this. But that's it.
But like I feel like that's kind of undermined by the fact that the song is also a joke about a drug, right? Like a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like the message goes out the window at that point.
Like I did not pick up the message. Like I listened to this album like 2 or 3 times yesterday, and the first time I listened to it, I did not pick up on the racial profiling at all. I just picked up like, oh, this is some song about drugs. I don't really know what he's doing with it, but it's really, it took me a while to realize like, is he trying to say something in this? What is it? I don't really know. Let's move on to a anti-Vietnam War song. Like, unless you have more to say about LSD.
No, I have nothing more to say about LSD.
Yeah.
So, The Missionary, a song that is anti-war, and Jimmy was not a draft dodger. He had a student deferment from Vietnam.
So there's a couple of thoughts I have about this. Like, first of all, obviously as like somebody who was a hippie, but also just like a musician operating in the 1970s, I'm kind of shocked that he didn't end up writing more like anti-Vietnam material. But I guess like also like this is part of the reason why the political material shocks me is because like he doesn't really do
Yeah.
political material on most
Well,
of his later.
So I guess
records.
we also have to remember that like this is really he doesn't actually have a lot of material that is like written and recorded and released like at the height of Vietnam, because it's
That's true.
this album. High Cumberland Jubilee is recorded in 71, but it's not released until after our involvement in Vietnam ends. White Sport Coat and the Pink Crustacean comes out in 73, and I think between that one and whatever album is that A1A? Whatever song, whatever album comes out, I believe it's between or Living and Dying in 3/4 time. I believe it's
Yeah.
between those two that Nixon ended our involvement, like our committing troops to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And so he really only has 2 albums that are released in that time.
I think there is some like political stuff on High Cumberland, but like definitely like this is Jimmy's most political album.
Yes.
And it's also that like so like one of the things that kind of irks me about, you know, his later stuff like after like sort of post Key West, even post like Kitsch era, like when he just sort of becomes like goes full island time, is that he kind of does not really think that much about like colonialism or imperialism. Sometimes it feels like he is, and then he doesn't really say anything. And I feel like this song, The Missionary, has like a not uninteresting perspective on
Yeah, I mean he's distinguished
colonialism.
because he specifically talks like he specifically calls out the phrase like swords into plowshares, right?
He calls out the phrase "swords into plowshares." I also really like,
But that's like literally like John Mott 1908 decisive hour of Christian missions, like
Yeah.
Christian imperialism.
It's kind of weird to see Jimmy be like thoughtful about this when he so obviously like abandons these lines of thought later in his career, or maybe does not abandon but just doesn't like evolve how he's thinking about it. Interesting, like
Yeah, I think the explanation could be that he decides that like he doesn't evolve it, and so he doesn't have anything more to say. It could also be, you know, like because we know he's, you know, as a songwriter, you know, you have respect for other songwriters. He very well could just be like, well, other people are writing the songs better than me. Why don't I just go do my own thing? That's something we're going to discover as we move on here, I suppose.
So like we've been talking a lot about how political this album is. There is one song on this where like I listened to it and my first thought was like, well, there's why he didn't end up writing more political material later on.
Yeah.
But there's just like a lot of this song is like kind of surprising, and also just like the notion of like, oh, I did the thing I was supposed to do, right? As like a good missionary trying to do colonialism like properly, right? And it didn't occur, and there's sort of like having this moment of like, oh wait, the values that sort of worldview extols are maybe not accurate values. Really, like I'm going to be honest, shockingly thoughtful stuff from James Buffett here.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like the other part of that too is that he's very clearly saying like, I've been doing this the way that we've thought about doing this, and I've made a lot of goodwill and headway, and you've just completely thrown all of that progress away with like, you know, going in there like a bull in a china shop. That's the other part of the message.
Like the two parts of it are either like, one, I've told them they should be like us, and we're apparently, you know, violent murderers. I don't love having told them that. And the other one is like, if I'm going to make better headway with this, I need to be demonstrating that we are actually like decent, good people. And I don't know that we are anymore. Like,
and
it's
I think
both of those things.
That's so. Speaking of like evolving messages in Jimmy Buffett songs, like the main through line on Jimmy Buffett's song messaging is, hey man, the world might be crazy, but let's sit down on the beach and just relax. There's beauty to behold on the sea and good friends to hang out with and drink and smoke weed and stuff like that. Like that's the like he wants people to relax and just be cool with each other. And this is sort of like I think this is like the earliest nugget you see of that, because it's coming from the I was just trying to talk to these people angle. Like, so that in that way, that's very hippie because it's very peace, love, and, you know, peace, love, and friendship.
It's kind of, why can't we just get along with it, man?
Exactly.
You know? It really is. I liked the song a lot. Like the first side of this album, like it has like one like big whiff on it for me, which is LSD, and then the rest of it I kind of ended up really digging.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Speaking of which, let's get to it. Honestly, my favorite song one of my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs that I've heard out of his career thus far.
Yeah.
I mean, not thus far, obviously, this is the first album, but out of all of my
Yeah.
knowledge of Jimmy Buffett songs, this is the song that I like one of the absolute most, which is A Mile High in Denver. Again,
I've had this song stuck in my head all day. Like
that's the sly reference to drugs, I guess. Mile High City, you know? Like
yeah, a little bit.
There's a little bit of a drug reference. It's not really that though. This is kind of an autobiographical song, which is weird because I went looking around and I could not find any I couldn't find any proof that Jimmy Buffett had been in Colorado at all until 1972 when he bought a cabin in Aspen, Colorado, not Denver. But
Yeah.
I did also find that he was friends with John Denver early in his career. John Denver, obviously a big fan of the Rockies.
That's true. It makes me wonder, like, so this is the first song in his sort of oeuvre that, like, there's a sort of a modality that he gets into with some of his music later on about, like, I'm kind of being a dirtbag and it's ruining my life. You know?
Yeah.
This song feels a lot like that, of just like, if it's a sly reference to drugs, like, oh, I'm getting high, like maybe he still is actually like in Denver though, but it's also that like I didn't really do my research and now I'm here and it's cold and sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's interesting you mentioned that. I also thought about that on a different song on this album, but it does connect to this song now that I look back at the lyrics and you mention it, is that Jimmy Buffett pre-Margaritaville, a lot of his songs are about like, I'm like a young hippie hooligan, sort of like low income, almost like what I guess what you would call like disparagingly like white trash nowadays, but like proudly so from the Gulf Coast, and we get into all this like sort of ruckus.
you know, he's doing a lot of like 1960s hippie things. Like he's doing drugs, he's like going on weird road trips to Denver. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this totally fits in that theme.
it's also just really fun. Like, it's like it's got like this weird upbeatness to it that's like,
Yeah, because he's looking for the cloud with the styrofoam lining.
yeah,
Which is, it's upbeat, but it's also cheap, which is like, it's fantastic.
he's just like, he just needs something. He came all the way to Denver. It's not going well. It's exactly like the vein of Jimmy Buffett's music that I really like. And then of course there's like the real like quote unquote classic on the album, I guess, after this one.
You're right. I think what we would presume is the fan favorite because it comes up again on another album, and I think this is the one that he plays the most out of all of the songs.
And it's, I don't
The
especially
Captain and the
dislike.
Kid, by the way.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned that. Also, the first song that mentions anything nautical took all the way
Yeah,
to the
that's-
end of side one of the first album.
That's very true. Also the only like explicitly like nautical song on the album. I don't know if this is my second favorite song on the album. I do think it's a good song, you know? Like I like it.
I like it too.
It's I don't know if like, I kind of understand why it's like Jimmy's like first big classic song, but it is also kind of like, I don't know that it's like, even amongst like his big classic songs, I don't think it's like particularly up there for me.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Captain and the Kid other than like, so he mentions his grandfather's barkentine, and that's not the last time that his grandfather's barkentine comes up in a song. We'll get to that on I think Banana Wind, I think is the album that song shows up on.
Yeah, it's you know, I don't think there's anybody who's remotely familiar with Jimmy Buffett is familiar with this song, you know? And you know, there's just not much that interesting to say about it. It's you know, kind of poignant and sad, and like has this kind of like, it's the line in this album that kind of is like, makes it feel like Jimmy was always going to end up in the sea, you know? Like maybe it doesn't feel like it's everywhere, but like the way he talks about the ocean on this song, it just kind of feels like he's gonna get back there eventually.
So I mean, because he grew up on the coast, and obviously he had a background in sailing because his grandfather, you know, had the boat. But he's not in Florida yet. He doesn't get to Florida until after, between now, essentially, and white sport coat and a pink crustacean.
Some point he gets into Key West, and that's really where like the ocean takes over. But this is, as he's like has that connection, but it's still like, to use the term from the compilation album, before the salt. He's not in the ocean yet. It's not
before the beach. That's also
before the beach. Yeah,
they kind of ran out of names for the compilation of the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we take a quick break?
Yep. You know what? I'm just gonna remind myself. Right. Edit there. I'm gonna do like a little record flip.
All right. We're going to side B.
Going to side B.
Back in a second.
Captain America.
Captain America. This is not actually the specific song I was talking about when I said that I think this is indicative of why he didn't write more political material, but it is kind of like it's.
Well, again, this is like LSD. It's
very much like
it's supposed to be funny, obviously. Like that's the intention.
I think it is funny. It's just kind of like, I guess it's anti-Nixon, but the song is also literally about Captain America, like the Marvel Comics character.
Yeah, so between this and there's a certain line that happens in I Can't Be Your Hero Today that reminds me that there is another like through line in Jimmy Buffett's discography, which is that he's a big nerd. He likes comic books and he likes sci-fi. Like, I cannot tell you how many references to Star Trek there are in his material.
So do you know that like that Anthony Bourdain quote where he talks about how like all his brain wants to do is get high and watch cartoons all day, and he has to trick that part of his brain in order to do the things he did in his life?
I vaguely do know that quote.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of Jimmy's stuff is what happens when that just wins, right? It's just like, if Jimmy had a little bit less self-control about his image, like he would have like a series of tweets that Anthony Bourdain had where he had been watching My Little Pony and posting about Applejack's struggles with sexuality or whatever.
Did that actually happen?
Yeah, he got like high before he got in a plane. He was watching My Little Pony, and then he was just like watching My Little Pony.
Okay,
and then like 5 minutes later, he was fascinated with Applejack's struggles with sexuality.
What a wonderful little anecdote for the podcast about Jimmy Buffett. There is so historical context. Have you ever seen the movie Easy Rider with Peter Fonda?
I have not seen Easy Rider. I'm aware of the movie. I haven't seen it.
Came out in '69. Peter Fonda's character is nicknamed Captain America. Now, the same year, there was a relatively famous political cartoon that was done. I'm going to send you a link to it so you can see the picture that has, because I was curious about the mention of Spiro Agnew. It portrays Richard Nixon as Peter Fonda from Easy Rider, and has Spiro Agnew not in a sidecar, but like on a mini bike that's way too small for him. It almost looks like he's on a tricycle or something to me. There's a flag on the back that says Captain America. And I have to think, because this is a well-known one, it appeared in a lot of syndicated papers, that Jimmy must have seen it. And I think he might have glommed onto the idea that like, oh, Captain America, like Captain America, but this.
Yeah, it's possible, but also like, so first of all, a couple of things. For some reason, Spiro Agnew in this comic has a Free Huey like patch on his shoulder. There's
a bunch. There's a bunch of stuff about like what's going on in 1969 that like conjure up like this sort of weird juxtaposition.
But the Huey in question is Huey P. Newton, right?
Huey P. Newton, yes. He also has a TV Guide sticker on him, and a button that says Wasp. And
an iron cross. Like,
yep.
Like maybe I'm just thinking too much about it. The other thing I wanted to say, Captain America's not like, he's like a clever dude. He's not like especially like, he's not like a smart, like I'm also kind of a comics nerd. He's not that smart. Like he's not doing like weird Mr. Fantastic, Tony Stark chemistry, like engineering shit,
I'm not a comic dude, so I can't speak to that with expertise.
Captain America is a smart and clever guy, but mostly the understanding is that he's like tactically smart. He does not have like a Einstein level intellect.
Yeah,
I don't know what the fuck Jimmy's talking about.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, also, does he look like Mr. Clean?
Like in terms of musculature, yeah, I think so. I think
this is how I found out that Mr. Clean was introduced in 1958.
I knew that.
I guess I didn't expect it, Mr. Clean. And I mean, I'm talking about like the actual like there being a Mr. Clean actor who was like buff. I didn't expect it.
This song is like, I don't know, it's just kind of like upbeat and funny. I don't think the song is actually that funny, but I don't think it's like terribly unfunny, you know? I just kind of like, oh, okay. Side B, generally speaking, on this album has a lot more misses for me than side A does.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I
there's
guess
much more to say about Captain America.
Yeah, I would move on to Turnabout here, which I can at least say, mention that.
Don't we have Ain't He a Genius first?
He does. We do have Ain't He a Genius first. Yes, thank you. I didn't write down anything about it, which shows you the kind of impression it left on me.
So, like, Jimmy has a lot of portrait songs that are way better than this. There's a quote by a music reviewer I like a lot named Todd in the Shadows, and he says that he doesn't like songs about people who don't have problems.
Yeah.
And this feels a lot like he kind of has problems, but he doesn't have problems. I'm just kind of like, what is this, Jimmy? It did nothing for me. It left no impression. It's literally like just gone.
It would
like,
be
the second I stopped thinking about it.
It's a big gamble to take a song like this and put it on your debut album, especially because you're not well known for writing story songs about other people. So you just have to assume that this is a thinly veiled reference to himself. And I think it's very bold of him to write the song Ain't He a Genius about himself. Also, I think it proves that maybe he ain't such a genius, because it's not a particularly compelling song.
No, I don't think so. So with that said, let's move on to Turnabout.
Okay,
which is a song, which is one of my big hits on this side of the album, honestly.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. There's we said there wasn't much autobiography on this album. This is kind of autobiographical. It mentions, being in Mobile, which is where I grew up, and it does that little nostalgia thing where he talks about, like, we talked about how it has never changed. Nostalgia, I think, is a big Jimmy Buffett theme. And then, of course, at the very end of the song, he spent a day or two down by the bay. That's nautical.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I like about this song, right? It's got this like sort of like, it's like this kind of like interesting and like slightly tragic song about, like, I guess technically like a missed connection, but also that like this romance that almost was, and Jimmy was like, I can't.
Yeah,
can't do that.
At the same time, it's like, how familiar were you with the band Pulp?
Not at all.
Okay. They have a song called Disco 2000. First of all, fantastic song. Second of all, it's about this guy who essentially is like, she was my high school quote unquote sweetheart, but I never had a chance and she never was interested in me. And, she's married with a kid now. But I like to think that it's like what could have been. And this reminds me, like, that message sort of reminds me of this song. I do think there's an element of like, this was never actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's like the song is not a development of things that make it impossible. It's like Jimmy, as like sort of the narrator of the song, like slowly realizing that it was never going to happen. That simply was not a possible reality. But so I like that. And I also really like the structure of this song, It doesn't really have like a proper chorus. It just kind of like the verses just kind of keep chugging along the whole time.
It's a good little, ballad like that.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
It's very much not like a normal way. It's not a normal pop structure. It's just verse, 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 verse. That's very folky.
It's very folky.
Yeah.
This is probably like, of all of like the folk songs on this album, and there's a lot of folk songs on this album, this is probably like my favorite of them. It's just like, it's just going, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's not a shocking song the way some of the political stuff was, Like it's in it's very much like
I could see a little bit of different like instrumentation, this being like a closing song on one of his later albums.
Yeah, it's like it's absolutely a song that is sort of in Jimmy Buffett's style. Like the style that he develops that sort of becomes his bread and butter over the years.
Yeah.
It's exactly the kind of song I love from him.
Good story. Really good
story.
Yeah.
Good story.
He's a very good bard. He weaves a good story. And it's nice to see like that's evident sort of from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I just like it a lot. I like that song.
Shall we move on now to There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times?
I think this song is my least favorite song on the album.
I do not like this song.
No, I don't like it either. It's the perspective on it is kind of weird. There's one thing on it that I kind of like, right? Which is like he just fucking belts at the end of it, and I was like, I did not really know Jimmy could belt like that.
It's very hard rock. Some of this,
yeah, like he puts some power into his voice in like a lot of his like later stuff. Like
so when he doesn't
let us like shout singing.
When he was in college, he was in an acid rock band that tried to emulate. This is from Wikipedia. Tried to emulate the style of Jefferson Airplane. That makes a little bit of sense when you hear this song.
Fuck yeah, I could see that. Jesus, I don't know if there's any recordings of that, but I would kill to hear that. Like. That's fascinating.
I don't want to hear that, but I can hear it here.
You don't want to hear Buffett doing acid rock?
No, well, see, I think I did at the very end of this album. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
I will say. So here's what is presumably going to be a recurring segment. I like to call boat drinks.
Boat drinks. I think I got boat drink fever. Waitress, I drink 6 more boat drinks. 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 Somebody sound the alarm.
I have a theory that you can tell exactly where Jimmy Buffett's at in his career and the way he thinks about writing his albums and the messages of his songs based on the types of drinks he mentions in the lyrics of his album. There are only 2 mentions of drinks on this album. One of them is in this song. So I sit on a bench in Jackson Square. Jackson Square, by the way, is New Orleans. So again, it's a little biographical. I drink my wine and I breathe the midnight air. So we've got wine, the very first alcoholic beverage ever mentioned, or beverage in general, ever mentioned by Jimmy Buffett. Wine.
There are other songs that he talks about wine, including one that I really like.
The Wino and I Know.
That's not the one I was talking about.
Well, that's the one that comes to mind when I think about Jimmy Buffett and wine.
I always think about Tin Cup Chalice. But,
Tin Cup Chalice, yes.
But this is the song I think is indicative of why Jimmy didn't write more political material in his career. Because, like, one, the song's
Jimmy
kind of
Buffett went to a
nothing.
private high school. Like, his dad was Army Corps of Engineers. I'm not saying I had a worse life than Jimmy Buffett. I definitely didn't. I mean, just based on the fact that he was born in the 40s and I wasn't. But I don't think Jimmy Buffett particularly grew up as tough as anything that he's singing about here.
No, this feels like kind of fake. And also the okay, so like first of all, like most of the song it kind of feels like it's saying nothing. But then there's like the I had to go because I could see I wasn't meant for poverty. I was like, what is that? The family ties have been severed. It's like, what are you talking about, Jimmy? That's really weird, dude.
It's very sociopathic. The idea of like, my family's poor. I'm abandoning them.
I'm abandoning them to go get drunk in Jackson Square and not have my life be like demonstrably better. Like, what is this?
It's a really skewed way because he says, I went off to find the moon. That's a very hippy dippy thing to say, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's an incredibly weird way to look at the idea of like, well, if your family doesn't accept your, peace, love, and understanding ways, then you're just going to cut ties with them. But you also saying you're cutting ties with them because you didn't want to be impoverished and they're poor?
I don't know what the fuck he's doing with this song. It's really weird. I think it's
like he left home to go busking. I feel like he's probably better off at home.
I think this is pretty easily the worst song on the album. Like I don't really like the next song on the album very much either. But I think this
for me, it's a toss up between this and LSD.
LSD I also didn't like very much, but like LSD is like. I can listen to it and it doesn't really like
it's at least a little like jaunty. Like you could listen to it.
Like it doesn't really like LSD more so just doesn't inspire thought in me. This is a common thing for me. If something is boring, that's kind of just like
very banal.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's banal. I don't like boring music. But that's fine. But this is just like
it's almost offensive because it makes you think about things you don't want to think about.
Yeah, and also like it feels hokey and fake. Like what is
What are you
I don't
doing,
know.
James?
This song is indicative of why he didn't write more political material later, right?
Yeah.
Later in his career,
Yep.
right? It's just because I imagine like
Well,
once he
it's why
became a better
yeah.
songwriter, there's a good chance that like he had more material that was like "There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times," and what he did as a better songwriter was look at those and be like, "That's not a good song."
Yeah, it was,
Right? Like-
but this is exactly what we've been saying so far, is that the best songs that Jimmy Buffett writes are really songs about what he knows, his own
Yeah.
experiences, or things he actually like sees occur in his day-to-day life. This is not one of those songs.
This is not one of those songs.
This is very much manufactured.
Let's let the less said about it, the better. Let's move on to "I Can't Be Your Hero" today. What do you think about this song?
I am pretty ambivalent on it. I think you like I'll tell you, I've listened to this album like 3 times in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
I cannot remember how the melody goes to this song.
I
The
can't
music
either.
is just absolutely nothing to me.
It simply does not elicit a strong reaction in me whatsoever.
The lyrics are a
All
bit interesting because I think, you know, they're obviously about like tough times in a relationship. And I think he was going through a divorce right at this time, or maybe right after this.
What I wrote down in this, the only thing written in my notes is, "What if Turnabout sucked a bit?"
Yeah, I can hear. But so this is coming from someone who's already in a relationship instead of yearning for a relationship that can never happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like this relationship is kind of coming to an end, but it also is like not a very good song about that relationship coming to
Yeah.
an end.
Also, he mentioned Superman, so another point for Jimmy Buffett being like a comic book nerd.
I did not catch the Superman reference in this.
Yep, I can't be your Superman above.
Oh, he does say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Jimmy was just a look at the core of his being, like he really spoke to like a certain like aspects to how like sort of being by the water feels. Like there's something magical about his songwriting that would work, but also like, man, he was just kind of a weirdo a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's a bit of astrology in there too, because he says, well, nature
Yeah.
holds the handcuffs on a Capricorn and Taurus. That's almost one of those like, we'll never get along because our star signs don't align sort of things.
Yeah, like what?
But
Like,
again,
that's-
I feel like that line really comes more from the idea of like he wants to mention a couple constellations, because again, Jimmy Buffett's like a star nerd as well.
yeah, it kind of felt to me sort of like that line felt kind of tongue in cheek. Like I
Yeah.
almost felt he was sort of, and maybe I'm projecting this, like it felt to me sort of like mocking of astrology in the same way that he kind of mocks Christianity in like much of the album.
I mean, there's some clunky shit in this song, because verse
It's-
4 is, there's nothing you can do or say to get me to your camp. Go fill up all your savings books and buy yourself a lamp.
I don't know what that is. I
It's
don't know
like,
what's up with
Jimmy,
that.
why are we mentioning lamps here, man?
What are you talking about, dude? It's very nothing. It feels a lot like Ain't He a Genius, where it's just like the second I stop listening to this song or talking about it, it exits my mind.
These are some like songs that are like more vehicles for having enough sound on the album to justify pressing it to a vinyl record.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels. And it's like even with that, like the album is just under 40 minutes. Like it's not like terribly short, but like
Yeah.
it did need these other songs on it.
Yeah, which is not to say that, like, I mean, they couldn't have just like jammed out a little bit more on some of the older stuff, because most of this album is really tight, right? There's not a lot of
Yeah.
like, there's not really any soloing that goes along until this last song here. Which,
Yeah, it has like an extended instrumental at the end.
if you'd like to talk about Truck Stop Salvation now.
Well, we can move along if you want, but it sounds like you're kind of in the middle of a thought. So let's finish that if you have something else.
I
to
have
say.
no more thoughts on I Can't Be Your Hero today.
No, me neither.
I was specifically trying to segue to this next song that I do have thoughts on.
Truck Stop Salvation is. So I think I like the song.
This is a song that Jimmy Buffett wrote, and he didn't write it in the Jimmy Buffett style.
No. he didn't at
Anytime
all.
later than like 1973, he would have written the song in the first person, a la like The Great Filling Station Hold Up or Peanut Butter
Yeah.
Conspiracy. Like he would actually say, I'm the greasy hippie. I walked in like I owned the town, sort of a thing.
Yeah, he kind of divides himself from it. I don't really know why, but also like it doesn't make an uncompelling piece. Like because it's sort of like not from his perspective, it kind of makes like it's interesting. It's really weird. So it's like you're obviously supposed to be sympathetic to him as like the long-haired hippie, but it's kind of all of the perspective points are kind of told from like the townspeople and like the Bible thumpers,
Yeah.
the sheriff,
The
like
schoolgirls.
yeah, like these are all sort of like the active parties in this song, and it kind of like
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like, you can understand it because the whole point is that Jimmy Buffett goes into this town, fills up on gas, and then leaves, and then the song happens. Like, the only
Yeah.
time Jimmy Buffett's actually in this town in this song, if we take to believe that it's really supposed to be Jimmy Buffett is the hippie,
it
he's
has to
there
be
in the
him.
first verse, and that's it. And the rest of
Yeah.
this story happens after he leaves.
It's interesting because like on the one hand, like sort of imagining that like your passing would cause such a stir, right? Is
It's
kind of like
egotistical. Yeah.
it's egotistical, it's a little self-aggrandizing. At the same time, there were legitimately people who treated hippies like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like I want to be like, oh, that's really egotistical and weird, but also like there were legitimately Bible thumpers who were like, that was the devil.
Yes, also, second and final mention of drinks on this album. He's what they've tried to kill with their Bibles and their stills. Now, that could refer to whiskey or bourbon or moonshine. Those are all made in stills. I choose to
Yeah.
believe it's moonshine. I think that's very, like rural Southern.
It's very Southern. Yeah, I think it must be.
Yeah, so that's it for boat drinks. 2 drinks.
Yeah. We got 2 drinks in. Yeah, I don't know. This song is like it's a little egotistical, but I don't think it's bad. It's got kind of an interesting perspective with it. It definitely, you're right. It definitely would be written in a different style on a later album. And also,
I mean, regardless, I like
it.
the song.
I like this. I like that it ends with like an extended instrumental.
Yeah,
Like-
so we have to talk about it. So the last 2 minutes of this song, this is Jimmy Buffett like doing an acid rock thing, also pretty much.
Absolutely.
It's psychedelic. It's got that sort of like raga beat, like Indian classical music
Yeah, it
style
really
thing
does, yeah.
that like everybody and their grandmother was doing in the late 60s. It's bizarre. There's a couple of times that Jimmy Buffett does like a closing song where he's like, I'm gonna get weird with it. I'm gonna do a
Yeah.
weird style that I haven't done across the rest of the album and nobody expects from me. And this is the beginning of that trend because he does it a couple times.
I thought it's really good. Honestly, like this is the 3 biggest like hits on the album for me that I'm like, these are I think the best 3 songs on the album are like A Mile High in Denver, Turnabout, and Truck Stop Salvation.
I would agree with that. I think the only song that I would add there is probably The Christian.
The Christian's also good.
Well, The
These are
Missionary
just
is also. I guess I can't. I think I probably do like The Missionary better than The Christian because as a Jimmy Buffett song because I think it works better as a Jimmy Buffett song. I think.
I mean, I think it's a character
song-wise,
portrait, right?
I think song
Christian
wise, I prefer The Christian, but Jimmy Buffett wise, I prefer The Missionary.
I would agree with that. I just feel like these are the 3 songs that kind of feel like obviously Truck Stop Salvation is kind of like a different perspective on like what will eventually like become his style. But like
Yeah.
A Mile High in Denver and Turnabout, like those just feel like he's already there.
Yeah, these
Like-
are all songs that like you tweak just a bit, and they're just like normal Jimmy Buffett songs that we'd
Yeah, like,
expect to be
it's-
on like Changes in Latitude, Changes in
You
Attitude.
throw in like a slide guitar or something, right?
Yeah, or I mean,
Already
switch
even
out,
at this point-
Denver for Mobile.
Yeah, exactly. Like at this point already, like he sort of has just like this really interesting talent for songwriting. But like it has to be in like the specific style that he's going for. He does
Yeah.
have to be there.
I
'Cause,
get.
like,
I mean, the great beauty of this album is that you can see Jimmy experimenting with other songwriting styles, and you can see how he narrowed it down to what he always does afterwards.
yeah, absolutely. He hasn't touched down on something specific yet. I like the album a lot. I think it's really interesting. There's like obviously like the second side B has like a number of songs that kind of just miss for me. Side A has LSD, which I feel like is at best clumsy. I don't know. It kind of blindsided me how much I like this album. It really took me by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, this I think this album was balanced. Well, actually, I guess it could be balanced better because side A is definitely stronger than side B. But
Definitely it is.
I think essentially it's 5 good songs and 5 either okay, not bad, but not good songs, and then or actually bad songs. In the case of like
I
Nothing
think
Soft About Hard Times.
I think it's like 4 or 5 good songs, and then like 2 or 3 okay songs, and then like 3 songs that are just nothing boring and kind of bad.
Yeah, but then again, there's really only one song in the album that we can identify as being like actually atrocious rather than sort of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't really like Ain't He a Genius or LSD or I Can't Be
Oh, right. Ain't He a
Your Hero
Genius?
Today, but they're
right.
all just,
okay.
they just feel like,
I guess there's
every
there's
time
two
you think
songs.
about it vanishes from your brain. Like that song is the most nothing song.
There's two songs on this album that I think are actually genuinely bad, like offensively bad songs.
Yeah.
Ain't He a Genius is one of them.
Yeah. Ain't He a Genius? I don't know if Ain't He a Genius is like offensive. It literally, I just stopped thinking of, like, maybe if it like had more staying power, I would think it was actually bad.
Well, no, but see,
like,
here's the thing. The thing about Ain't He a Genius is musically, I'm, completely neutral on because I cannot remember it. It's just mediocre in that way.
It's just nothing. It's just
lyrically,
nothing.
it's a bad song.
It's a bad song, but like it really is like the song is not good enough to be bad for me. Like it's not structured enough. The music isn't there enough for it to like inspire any thought in me at all.
You think
it's just
so for you to make it like a genuinely bad song, somebody has to sit there and actually like cook it for a while.
Yeah,
like you think it's like a half-baked song, and so it can't be more than just mediocre.
Whatever. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly how I feel about it. There is a level where boring is worse than bad, and Ain't He a Genius is at that level.
I guess I'm attacking. I guess I'm attacking the song from the guilt of. I don't know if it's half-baked or just like unfinished enough. Or whether I think it's particularly like lazy.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where I am, because if it was lazy, I would definitely say, oh, well, that's offensively bad. The idea of it being a lazy song, but I don't know if I actually agree with the idea that it is a lazy song.
No, that's true. It has just a little bit too much effort in it. Anyway, this is such a bizarre album, and but I do like it quite a lot.
Yeah. Did you
just Jimmy's weird folk rock album?
Did you look up any reviews of this album?
No, I didn't end up doing that.
I did go to All Music Guide to look at a user review. There's one user review by Heath Bartlett from November of 2016. Long before Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett was a struggling singer-songwriter trying to cut it in Nashville. His first album, Down to Earth, is already character-driven, and those characters are just as restless. The music is as country as he ever got, and it's really not a bad album. Key tracks are The Christian, LSD, He Ain't Free, Captain America, and Truck Stop Salvation. And I thought that was a good review up until that last, because I don't agree with half of those key tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, okay, musically speaking, I think LSD is one of the key tracks, because this is the one I was saying that, like, there's so many elements of the music in this song that I could see appear later in his discography.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't think that they're particularly influential on the rest of his career. I think you'd replace that with Turnabout.
I think that LSD is indicative of an aspect of Jimmy's songwriting in his later career, but I don't think it's indicative of a part of Jimmy's songwriting that's particularly good
exactly.
in his later career.
But, so at that point, then, now you'd also have to wonder, like, The Christian is a decent song for the album. It's definitely one of the better 4 or 5 songs. I don't think it would be a key track to the rest of his career, though.
No,
because
absolutely not.
It's
way too political. It's way too political. It's really folk rocky. Like it's really like out of left field for Jimmy.
Yeah.
If this appeared on like an album that happened after his Key West phase, people would be really blindsided by it. It's only like makes sense because it happens before his Key West phase.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. So it's a really weird start to Jimmy Buffett, isn't it?
It's very strange. Like he's obviously like he's getting his footing as a songwriter. Like you said, you can kind of see that like he's feeling things out. On the next album, I feel like we're going to talk about it obviously soon. But on the next album, I feel like you start to see him sort of like he's kind of jettisoned some of the stuff from this album that didn't work as well, and he's starting to like find his footing a little bit more as a songwriter. But like this is really like he's kind of trying a lot of things, and some of them work and some of them really, really don't. Not a bad start. And really quickly, just to get a sneak peek for all of you to a segment that's going to be recurring on this.
He went Jimmy, looking for steel drums bothering him so. Well, steel drum killed his lady, left him with only one question. Which way do I steer for my steel drums?
Not a steel drum in sight. Not a single one of those bad boys.
No steel drums, no congos.
None of that stuff. Here's the thing. Like, I've heard The Captain and the Kid before, obviously, because he re-records it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I think this is my favorite recording of it, partially because it doesn't have a lot of the sort of kitschy Caribbean like.
I was sort of wondering whether they like added like, a reggae beat or steel drums.
No, they don't get that bad, but I
there.
do think like later recordings of it do include like steel drums.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. Anyway, I think that's probably gonna be it for this episode. Do you think there's anything else you want to say about this album?
No. I thought I was going to have something more profound to say, but I surprised all of us, including myself.
we kind of got everything out while we were talking about the album, which
Carrot heads, if you would ever like to come debate us on this podcast.
It's not important. It's not important. How do you end a podcast? Do you just play the intro again, or do we just like hard cut like right around here?
Do I just should I reverse the intro and have it play backwards on the way out?
I think you should just play the intro again, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think it's a bad one.
All right. Well, I'll play it again. Play us out, Jimmy.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. And my
Jesus Christ.
It's my own damn fault.
I do kind of wonder whether we're going to get a copyright strike for that. It's why I sped it up.
I think it's possible. We can change it.